Alright there guys, thanks for tuning in again. It's a beautiful afternoon here in the shop. So, a long time ago, actually not that long ago, just this summer, me and some friends tore down a 70, 80 foot black cherry tree in my backyard. And I've talked to you about it, showed you guys the slabs and stuff, and talked about some of the ideas I have with it. Well, this is one of the first ideas that I actually started to work on when the tree was still wet. So, using a draw knife and some big chippers, or some big chisels and big carving knives, I took a piece of cherry that was about this big. You can see the heartwood there is about 1.5 to 2 inches. And I sealed up the ends and I took everything off, a good inch on either side. I mean, all the way around, whittled it down. So I had pretty much only just the heartwood left as the walking stick. And it took quite a lot of work. And hold on a sec. Shh. Trying to make a YouTube video. Huskies. Anyways, so I started peeling stuff off and I got down to about half inch thicker than this, and I started using an orbital sander and then this benchtop sander, and had a whole bunch of ideas on how I wanted to do it, and then it just kind of got away from me. I let it dry for quite a few weeks right next to my fireplace downstairs in the basement, and so I know it got really dry. I'm not sure if it's super duper dry right now, but it didn't do any more checking or splitting or cracking. One of the other things I did down here on the end, I started playing around a little bit with some resin epoxy. So my plan was to make it kind of a dome or a gem or something. I'm not quite sure. It did kind of get away from me a little bit, and I still got more sanding to do and polishing to do before I even get to that stage. Though I wanted to figure out really what I wanted to do with this cherry wood. Cherry is very unique and very characteristic kind of wood, at least as far as its grains go. It's really, really pretty. But just sanding it down, and even with marks like this, if I just sanded it smooth, you wouldn't see a whole lot of that grain at all. So what I decided to do, and what maybe if you pay attention to some knife makers or watch what some people are doing with grip handles these days, is texturing and taking like a round edge somehow and creating all these valleys for grip and for aesthetics. And I tried it once with a Dremel tool and just a little drum sander on that on some nice scales I did about a year or two ago, and it turned out pretty cool. But I figured I just hooked up this bench sander, cleaned it all up to a dust collection device. I kind of mocked this up. If you saw one of my last or couple videos, I was actually in the process of making this guy. So what it is just a vacuum that's piped outside right now. One, because that's a little bit of fresh air in it. It's only about 20 degrees today. And that vacuum hose comes right up into the bottom here and into this shaft or chute that's clear plexiglass. It's about 5.5 by 4 inches. And it does really, really quite a good job of taking at least 90 to maybe even more than 90% of the dust that I'd normally accumulate on a bench sander like this. I mean, dust just goes absolutely everywhere. So what I wanted to do for sure is keep dust off the motor area. And so there's a piece of plexiglass up here. And the chute actually has kind of like this cover that protects the switch, because it always just, all this area just got so dusty all the time. So now that I can bring this monstrosity of a sander into the bench, into the workshop, the heated and insulated new workshop I got, I use the bench dogs in the back and my vise to hold it in place. And it's all mounted in nice and tight to this kind of frame that I built to house this dust chute. So this is working out really, really well. I'm very happy with it so far. And what I've gone ahead and done to start bringing out some of the grain pattern in this cherry, let's see if I can zoom in here, is I started taking angles out of it. The same kind of idea. So I'm releasing those rings. You can kind of see how that looks. And look at that cool effect. Those rings are popping out, and They're going to blend together. And I'm going to hand sand and polish. You can see a lot of those grinding marks right now from the actual belt sander. But this is just going to be super cool and super unique, I think. And so I'm about halfway done with the actual whole thing. And now what I'm going to start doing, instead of just small little dots, I'm going to start trying to elongate them until I get to the very end where I'm going to have, you know, the grip surface is already kind of shaped just a little bit. I'm going to have some nice big sweeps out of here so it fits the hand really nicely, and then figure out what to do at the end. But for now, and just to show you, this is kind of the idea I got going on. And I think it's going to be really, really cool when it's done. So let me show you how the belt sander works and the dust collector. First, I turn on the vacuum. It's going to get pretty noisy here, but you can see. It's got quite a bit of sucking power. I'm going to turn on this bench sander. I'm not going to be doing too much more talking, so enjoy.